The wind slapped her face, sharp and cold. Agnes stood before the gate of the 2-story house, clutching a paper bag still warm with steam. Inside was beef stew, her son's favorite dish. It had been a week since she last heard from him. He's probably busy, she told herself as she pressed the doorbell. Ding dong. Silence. She rang again. The chime echoed through the gray afternoon, carrying into the elegant house, the same house she had once helped pay for. Still, no answer. Then, the soft scrape of slippers, the click of a lock. The door cracked open. Hannah, her daughter-in-law, stood there expressionless. No polite smile this time. No, you shouldn't have troubled yourself, Mom. Just that steady, cold stare. What are you doing here? Hannah's voice was dry, almost brittle. Agnes blinked. I brought some food. You said last week the baby had a fever. No need. Hannah cut her off. And from now on, don't come here again. Agnes thought she'd misheard. What did you say? I said. Hannah met her eyes, voice as smooth as glass. Don't ever set foot in this house again. A sharp pain clenched in Agnes's chest. Her lips trembled. This is my son's house, Hannah. Our family's home. Hannah gave a faint smile that didn't reach her eyes. Our family? Since when? Her hand tightened on the doorframe, pushing slightly as if ending the conversation. Daniel and I need privacy. You should go. But... The door slammed in her face. Agnes flinched. The bag slipped from her hand, stew spilling onto the tiles, meat, carrots, the smell of broth mixing with dust and exhaust fumes. She stood frozen, staring at the closed door. Then came the electronic beep of the lock. The gate sealed. Her face recognition access deleted. Agnes lifted her wrinkled hand to the scanner. A red light blinked. Access denied. She knocked, then pounded harder, voice trembling. Hannah, what's wrong with you? Let me talk to Daniel, please. No response. Only music drifting faintly from inside a lullaby she once sang to her granddaughter. Now it came from a smart speaker, sterile and mechanical. Agnes pressed her forehead against the cold door. Through the small window, she saw the living room bright and spotless, and on the shelf something familiar, a wooden box. Her wooden box. The one she'd once hidden in her wardrobe, the one that held her late husband's photo, the house deed, and a secret no one else knew. She whispered, Why? Is it there? No answer. Only the wind. Only her heart pounding painfully loud. She kept her trembling hand on the doorframe. A sudden gust blew past, snatching the faded scarf from her neck, carrying with it the last trace of warmth left in her body. Agnes bent down to pick it up, her eyes never leaving the box inside. That box wasn't just wood. It was the only relic of her husband, gone more than 20 years. Inside lay the original house deed signed in his handwriting, something she had once trusted Hannah to keep safe, because she believed a daughter-in-law would honor the family. Now it sat there behind a locked door, in the very house she'd helped buy, and she was told she no longer had the right to enter. Her breath came in short, shaky bursts. She knocked again, softly this time, like the tapping of rain. Hannah, please, open the door. I just want to see my granddaughter, just for a moment. No reply, only the reflection of the hallway lights on the glass, cold, still, and distant, like the eyes staring back from within. Agnes stepped back. The house she used to visit every afternoon, bringing food, fruit, knitted sweaters for her grandchild, now looked at her like a fortress, locked, walled, and silent. Her phone buzzed. A message appeared on the screen. Stop trying. Your son doesn't want to see you. From Hannah. Agnes's heart seized. Her vision blurred. She stumbled backward, tripped over the fallen food bag. Hot broth splashed onto her dress, burning her skin, but she didn't feel it, only the emptiness. She sank onto the steps. The lights inside the house glowed warm. She heard laughter, the laughter of a child, her granddaughter's. But mixed with it was Hannah's sharp voice. "Don't mention that old woman again. Understood?" Agnes bit her lip until it bled, lowered her head to hide the tears, and in the hollow of her chest, one question echoed over and over. What did I do wrong to be cast out of my own home? Behind the glass, the wooden box remained silent, unmoving, its lid catching the faint light where 3 words were carved. For Agnes only. The wind rose again. Agnes stood slowly, swaying. Behind her, the door stayed shut, and the secret locked within stayed silent. Years ago, Agnes wasn't the trembling woman who stood outside that locked gate. She was quick-handed, calm-voiced, a nurse people trusted with their lives. Her hands once saved others, her eyes once steadied fear. When her husband died, Daniel, her only son, was just 10. That night, she didn't cry. Not because she didn't want to, but because she had no tears left to shed. She folded the mourning clothes neatly, then sat down at the small kitchen table and opened her debt notebook. Rows of numbers stacked like a wall. Hospital bills, rent, tuition, no one left to share them. From that night on, Agnes worked like a machine. Day shifts at the hospital, evenings sewing uniforms for extra pay, weekends cleaning for a wealthy family across town. Her wages were barely enough, but Daniel never went hungry. Their dinner might be plain rice with boiled greens and salty fish, yet there was always a small piece of meat in his bowl. Once Daniel asked, "Mom, aren't you eating?" Agnes smiled. "I ate at the hospital." In truth, she hadn't eaten all day. But watching him eat filled her more than food ever could. Their room was barely 8 square meters, just enough for a bed, a small table, and an old wooden wardrobe. That wardrobe, her late husband had built himself before he died. Inside it was a small wooden box, the only thing he left behind. Agnes kept it locked. Inside were their wedding photo, the house deed, and a letter her husband had written before he passed. "If one day you feel too tired to go on, open this box. Inside it is every reason to keep living." She never opened it again. She was afraid that if she did, she might never stop crying. Daniel grew into a quiet, bright boy. Each time he brought home a good grade, Agnes tucked the paper between unpaid bills, as if small victories could soften life's rough edges. Each time he passed an exam, she borrowed money to buy him new shoes. She had no dreams left for herself, only one, that her son would live a life better than hers. When Daniel was accepted into college, Agnes sold the small piece of land her parents had left in the countryside. Neighbors called her foolish. She just smiled. Land can wait. My son's future can't. That night, she stared at the receipt in her hand, fingers trembling, but lips curved in a quiet smile. She believed she'd done the right thing. Daniel graduated as an engineer. The day he got his first job offer, Agnes placed the wooden box on the altar and whispered, "He made it, love. Our boy made it." For the first time in years, she slept without worry. Her back ached more these days, her hair had turned silver, but her heart was light. Every scar, every long night had finally meant something. Then one evening, Daniel came home holding a bouquet of flowers. "Mom, I'm seeing someone." Agnes laughed, tears shining in her eyes. "Really? What's she like?" "Her name's Hannah. She works with me, kind, smart. I think you'll like her, Hannah." The name rang softly, like a bell in her chest. When she met her future daughter-in-law, Agnes prepared everything perfectly: sweet and sour fish soup, spicy curry, and her famous banana cake, the one she always made on special days. The moment Hannah stepped in, Agnes froze for a second. The young woman was tall, tan, confident, smelling faintly of expensive perfume. Her smile was polite, dazzling even, but her eyes glimmered with something unreadable. Agnes kept serving food, smiling, eager to please. Hannah picked up her chopsticks, smiled back. "Thank you. May I call you Mom?" Agnes's heart leapt. That single word Mom felt like sunlight after years of rain. She had no way of knowing that someday that same word would become the sharpest blade. The wedding was beautiful. Afternoon sunlight poured through the glass windows, glinting off white roses and laughter. Hannah was radiant. Daniel beamed with pride, and when the couple bowed before her, Agnes couldn't hold back her tears. "Finally," she whispered, "you have a family of your own." After the wedding, she moved into a small apartment just a few blocks away, close enough to visit, far enough not to intrude. Every morning she brought breakfast over. Every afternoon, she stopped by to tidy up, do laundry, and watch over the baby when Hannah became pregnant. At first, Hannah protested softly. "Mom, you shouldn't tire yourself." "It's no trouble," Agnes said with a smile. "I like helping." And she did. Helping made her feel useful, connected, needed. When Emma was born, Agnes was there from the first cry. She cooked, washed, rocked the baby through sleepless nights. She didn't mind. When the child's small hand wrapped around her finger, the years of loneliness simply vanished. At night, under the dim nursery light, Agnes hummed the same lullaby she'd once sung to Daniel. "Sleep, my darling, sleep." Sometimes she thought happiness might just be the simple warm milk, a baby's breath, the sound of peace. But peace rarely lasts. Daniel began working longer hours. Hannah returned to her job. The house was mostly quiet, except for the faint creak of Agnes's old slippers and Emma's occasional cry. At first, Hannah was grateful. Then, something changed. It started with little things. "Mom, please don't touch the dishwasher. You're not used to it." "Mom, make sure you wash Emma's clothes separately." "Mom, could you head home early today? The baby needs rest." Each word was polite but distant, like a wall being built one brick at a time. Agnes nodded each time. She never argued. She simply smiled, though inside, something fragile began to crack. Evenings grew quieter. When Hannah came home, she didn't ask if Agnes had eaten. Sometimes she didn't speak at all. She'd just walk past, open her laptop, and the space around her would turn cold. Agnes told herself it was stress, exhaustion, nothing more. She kept cooking, cleaning, waiting for warmth to return. One evening, she prepared Daniel's favorite curry, the spicy one from his childhood. As soon as she placed the bowl on the table, Hannah frowned. "I told you I don't want that smell in the house. Emma can't eat spicy food." Her voice wasn't loud, but it was sharp. Daniel stayed silent. Agnes stared at her hands, the same hands that once held patience through pain, that once built a home from nothing, now trembling beside a pot of curry. Her heart twisted, but she forced a smile. "It's okay. I'll make something else." That night, back in her tiny apartment, she opened the wooden box. The wedding photo of her and her late husband stared back. His handwriting on the letter seemed to whisper through time, "Don't let anyone make you doubt the worth of your kindness." Agnes smiled faintly, smoothing the corner of the photograph before closing the box again. The next morning she rose early. She still carried her basket of groceries, still walked to the house, still believed that love, if given enough time, could heal anything. But love alone couldn't stop the locks from changing, or the walls from inching closer around her. Without realizing it, her own goodness was being used to quietly erase her place in their lives. Autumn crept in quietly that year. The trees outside Agnes's apartment turned gold, then brown, then bare, like pages slowly being torn from a calendar. She still woke at 6, out of habit. Still brewed tea for 2, though there was only her. Still folded little sweaters for Emma, even when no one came to pick them up. Days slipped by in a rhythm of waiting. Sometimes she would walk to the gate of Daniel's house just to look from afar. Through the iron bars, she could see the lights flicker on at dusk, the faint shadow of Hannah pacing with Emma in her arms. Her granddaughter had grown taller, her hair darker. Agnes smiled. She didn't need to be inside, just seeing that small figure was enough. At least that's what she told herself. But one evening, when she came by with a bag of apples, she found a new lock on the gate. And beside the intercom, her name removed from the access list. She stood there, staring at the blank screen where her face used to appear. No sound, no warmth, only silence. She called Daniel that night. No answer. She tried again. Voicemail. "Hi, it's Mom," she said softly. "I just wanted to know if you're eating well. I made some soup your favorite. Call me when you can, okay?" Days passed. No reply. Then one morning, she received a message from Daniel. "Mom, don't come over unannounced anymore. Hannah's stressed, and Emma needs stability. We'll visit when things calm down." Agnes stared at the screen. The words were gentle, even reasonable, but something in her chest went cold. She typed a reply. "Of course, dear. Take care of them for me." Then she set the phone down and sat in silence, the kind that fills a room until even your heartbeat sounds too loud. At the hospital cafeteria where she sometimes volunteered, people greeted her warmly. "Agnes, you still look so young. How's your family?" She smiled, as she always did. "They're good. Busy but happy." It wasn't a lie, at least, not entirely. Hannah was busy. Daniel was quiet. Emma was growing. Still, every night, Agnes found herself talking to the framed photo of her husband on the table. "Do you think I did something wrong?" she whispered. The man in the photo smiled the same gentle smile he always had. But his silence, too, began to hurt. One rainy afternoon, while organizing her papers, Agnes noticed something strange. The duplicate deed of the house, the copy she had always kept, was gone. She searched the drawer, the box, every file. Nothing. She sat down slowly. A thought thin cold slid into her mind. Hannah had borrowed it once, saying she needed to check something with the bank. Agnes had trusted her. She'd said, "Of course, dear. Just bring it back when you're done." That was months ago. Now the paper was gone, and the original, she remembered, was inside the wooden box at Daniel's house. The same box she'd seen through the glass, behind the locked door. Her pulse quickened. She reached for her phone, started typing a message to Daniel, then stopped. If she asked about it, he might think she didn't trust him. And if he showed Hannah the message... Agnes deleted the text. Her hand trembled. Outside, thunder rolled low and distant. That night, she couldn't sleep. She dreamed of the house of laughter behind walls she couldn't enter, of a box she could no longer touch, and of a voice, faint but clear, whispering through the dark. "Some doors don't close on their own, Agnes. Someone always turns the key." She woke with a start. The rain had stopped, but the silence in her apartment was heavier than ever. It started with a phone call, a stranger's voice, hesitant but urgent. "Mrs. Agnes? This is Mr. Parker from the Land Registry office. I'm calling to confirm the property transfer you requested." Agnes froze. "What? What transfer?" "The one for the house on Willow Street. It's scheduled for tomorrow." Her breath caught in her throat. "That's my son's address." "Yes, ma'am. The documents list you as the current owner, transferring the property to Mr. Daniel and Mrs. Hannah Carter." A pause. "It has your signature on it." Agnes's hand trembled. "My signature?" she whispered. "Are you sure?" "Yes, ma'am. It's already been verified." She hung up before he could finish. Her heart was pounding so hard she could feel it in her fingertips. The missing deed, the wooden box, the sudden coldness. Everything snapped into place like shards of broken glass forming a single, sharp picture. She reached for her drawer, the one where she kept all her records, bills, old IDs. She pulled them out, scattered them across the table, searching for any copy, any proof that the house was still in her name. Nothing. Only an old envelope, its paper soft and yellowed. Inside, her husband's letter, the one she had read only once. She unfolded it with shaking hands. If one day you find yourself surrounded by silence and doubt, look closely, Agnes. The people who smile the most are often the ones who've already chosen what to take. Her vision blurred. She grabbed her coat and umbrella, heading out into the rain. The next morning she stood in front of the same glass door that had once shut her out. She pressed the bell, once, twice. The door opened. Hannah stood there, dressed in beige silk, her smile faint but composed. "Agnes, this is unexpected. I need to speak with Daniel. He's busy. It's important." Hannah sighed, crossed her arms. "Whatever this is, it can wait." Agnes's voice was calm, but her eyes were burning. "Did you forge my signature?" The air froze. Hannah blinked, then laughed softly. "I beg your pardon?" "The deed, the transfer papers. My name is still on that house, and you're mistaken," Hannah interrupted, tone smooth as glass. "Daniel and I have handled everything properly. If your name's there, it's because you wanted him to have it. Don't you remember?" Agnes shook her head, tears gathering but not falling. "I never signed anything." For a brief second, something flickered in Hannah's eyes. Fear, annoyance, or maybe triumph. Then she smiled again. "You're tired, Agnes. You've been under stress. I'll call someone to help you get home." Agnes stepped forward. "Where's the wooden box?" "What box? The one your husband left you?" Hannah tilted her head, feigning confusion. "Oh, I think Daniel put it away. Too many old things cluttering the house." Agnes felt her knees weaken. She reached toward the hallway just one step, but Hannah blocked her path. "Leave," she said softly, "before I call security." Agnes froze, the rain dripping from her coat, forming small dark spots on the marble floor. She could hear Emma's laughter from upstairs, a sound so innocent it hurt. Her lips trembled. "I built this home. I paid for those walls. I carried your husband in my arms when he was a child." Hannah leaned closer, her perfume sharp and cold. "And now you're old, Agnes. You should rest. Let the next generation handle things." Agnes's hand rose halfway between a plea and a slap, but stopped midair. Her strength had left her. Hannah took a step back and shut the door. Softly this time, almost gently. Behind the glass, Agnes saw her own reflection, small, soaked, shaking. And on the shelf behind Hannah, she caught a glimpse of the wooden box. The box was open. Inside lay the deed, and below it, her forged signature, perfect down to every loop and curve. Her chest tightened. The world seemed to spin, edges blurring into gray. Her hand pressed against the glass, leaving a faint, trembling print. She whispered, almost to herself, "You took everything, even my name." The door stayed closed. The rain came harder. And somewhere inside the house, laughter echoed again, a child's laughter, bright and distant, as if mocking the silence that had become her world. 3 days passed before Agnes gathered the courage to do what she'd never done before: fight back. She spent 2 nights sitting at her kitchen table, surrounded by papers, letters, and old receipts. Every sound in the apartment seemed louder than usual: the ticking clock, the hum of the refrigerator, her own shallow breaths. At dawn, she packed everything into a worn leather folder and walked to the city hall. Her back ached, her knees throbbed, but her eyes were steady. "Forgery?" the clerk repeated, flipping through the documents. Agnes nodded. The signature isn't mine. Someone copied it. He frowned, studying the deed. This is quite a perfect imitation, Mrs. Carter. Are you sure? She pointed to the lower right corner. There, the curl at the end of the A. I never write it that way. He hesitated, then lowered his voice. If you want to pursue this, you'll need a lawyer. Agnes clutched her folder tighter. I'll find one. It wasn't defiance that drove her. It was grief, grief turning solid, sharp enough to cut through fear. That afternoon, she walked into a small law office near the market. The nameplate read, Patel Green, Family and Estate Law. Inside, a young attorney looked up from his desk. Can I help you? Agnes placed the papers before him. I think my son and his wife forged my signature to take my house. The lawyer, maybe in his 30s, studied her face, searching for exaggeration, bitterness, or madness. He found none. After a long silence, he said softly, Let's see what we can prove. Weeks blurred into paperwork, calls, and waiting. Agnes spent her mornings gathering records, her afternoons in legal offices, her nights staring at the ceiling. Sleep no longer came easily. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw that wooden box open, violated. Then came the day of confrontation. Daniel arrived at her apartment unannounced. He looked older, not in years, but in the heaviness of his eyes. Mom, he said quietly, what are you doing? Agnes stood by the table, hands clasped. Protecting what's mine. He sighed. You're making a mistake. Hannah didn't mean to steal. Her voice cracked, but didn't waver. Didn't mean to erase my name from my own home? Daniel looked down. Mom, Hannah said you gave consent, that you wanted... I wanted you to have a life, she interrupted, tears spilling down her face. Not at the cost of mine. He stepped forward. You don't understand. The house, it's already under our mortgage. We needed it. I was trying to... To what? She asked softly. To save her? Or to save yourself? He didn't answer. Agnes walked to her cupboard and pulled out the old photo of his father. She placed it between them. Your father built that house brick by brick. I cleaned the floors with my bare hands. And you signed it away for her comfort. Daniel's lips trembled. Mom. She raised a hand. No, don't call me that unless you mean it. For a moment, silence pressed between them, heavy, final. Then Agnes spoke again, quieter this time. I've already filed the report. The law will decide what's right. Daniel's shoulders sank. He looked at her, at the woman who had once held his fevered head through the night, and for the first time, he couldn't meet her eyes. He turned to leave, his voice breaking. She'll never forgive you for this. Agnes whispered. I stopped needing her forgiveness when she took mine. The door closed behind him. That night, rain fell again. Agnes sat by the window, listening to it beat against the glass, steady, relentless. She didn't cry, not anymore. She felt something new instead, something quiet but fierce. For the first time in years, she wasn't afraid of being alone. Because truth, she realized, was its own kind of company. She looked at her reflection in the glass, an old woman, yes, but no longer the kind who waited outside a locked door. Months passed. The case dragged through its quiet, merciless process documents, hearings, signatures, dates. Agnes showed up to every appointment, calm, dignified, never raising her voice. People whispered, some pitied her, others judged, but she didn't care anymore. She had spent too many years caring about how others felt, how Daniel felt, how Hannah looked at her, how silence filled a room that used to be warm. Now, all that mattered was truth. The judgment arrived on a pale morning in March, a short letter, stamped and sealed. She opened it with steady hands. The court recognizes Mrs. Agnes Carter as the rightful owner of the property located at 217 Willow Street. The words blurred. Her vision swam. And then, for the first time in a long while, she smiled, not with triumph, not with anger, but with a kind of peace she'd forgotten existed. A week later, she returned to the house. The air smelled of lilacs and rain, like the day she'd last stood outside its gate. The locks had been changed again, but this time, she had the key. Agnes pushed the door open. Dust floated in the sunlight, spilling through the tall windows. Everything was quieter than she remembered. Even the walls seemed older, gentler, as if they'd been waiting. She walked slowly through the living room, her fingers brushing the fabric of the curtains, the edge of the sofa, the wooden shelf. And there on the shelf was the box. The same wooden box that had started it all. She lifted it carefully, her hands steady now. The lid creaked open. Inside lay the deed, restored under her name. And beneath it, a faded photo her husband, and a small boy with a crooked smile. Agnes laughed softly. It wasn't a bitter sound. It was warm, alive. She placed the photo on the table and whispered, "We're home." That evening she brewed tea and sat by the window. Outside, the street glowed in the golden light of sunset. Children's laughter floated faintly through the air. Somewhere far away, a dog barked. She closed her eyes, letting the warmth of the cup seep into her palms. The house no longer felt empty. It felt full of echoes, of memories, of something that belonged only to her. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Emma misses you." Agnes stared at the screen for a long time, then typed slowly, "Tell her the door is always open." She set the phone aside, smiling to herself. Outside, the last light of day lingered over the lilac tree. Its branches swayed softly, scattering petals across the porch. Agnes rose, opened the window wide, and let the wind in. For the first time in years, the house breathed again.